In the last few years, we've all seen the building up of the menstrual movement, of women finally letting go of the black bag that every pharmacist would wrap their packet of sanitary napkins in, the health challenges they face every month, of men finally making an attempt, probably for the first time, to understand the demand for menstrual leave. Menstrual leave has many layers to it, and most importantly, the need to normalize a conversation around how women are expected to do it all and often not complain about it. Many feel that removing stigma and shame that accompanies menstruation and also menopause would make everything, including paid work, much easier and also help women to become more productive. But some feel it would be a barrier to equal opportunities. Remember, for India, shrinking female labour force participation, especially among educated women, has been a matter of a big concern. Now, Minister for Women and Child Development Smriti Irani has made an important point opposing the idea of menstrual leave, saying that menstruation is a natural part of life and shouldn't be treated as a handicap requiring special leave provisions. She has warned that menstrual leave could lead to discrimination against women in the workforce and that one must not propose issues where women are denied equal opportunities. Now, there are two sides to this debate, and every woman's menstrual journey is different, but all women have to fight a lot harder for equal pay and responsibilities, even as they perform disproportionate duties when it comes to childbearing and caregiving. So, is the idea of menstrual leave a workplace reform or a barrier to equality? That is what we are discussing tonight. We have with us Congress MLA Nainong Ering. Mr. Ering has been fighting to bring menstrual leave as a policy. We also have Prabir Jha, founder and CEO of Prabir Jha People Advisory, which is an HR firm, and we also have Brinda Adige, a social activist, joining us on this debate. Ms. Adige, starting with you, so both sides have very strong debates, points, arguments on their side. But even the Supreme Court observed while dismissing the petition on maternity leave that if such leave is granted, employers may not recruit women. And this may also lead to stereotypes of women being weak, and many may not want to leave that door open for discrimination after all that we have achieved. So help us understand the divisions even amongst women when it comes to, menstrual leave.
See, first and foremost, we must accept that menstrual pain, period pains are very severe with some women. And PMS is something that every woman goes through just before the periods and during the period. That is something most women go through. From a very young age, we have been told, taught, educated, almost scolded that this is a shame. So in that shame, silence is accepted. Silence is what everybody tells you to do. Now, a statement made by the Minister Smriti Irani is not an educated statement, telling that women might lose out on that equal opportunity. That is exactly why we have gender policies. That is why we started with gender budgeting. And all of this is to increase the workforce. And like you mentioned, women's workforce is coming down because of all of these reasons. Menstrual leave not being there, also a reason. Now, when you say, and when the Supreme Court judge says that women will lose out, that women will not be able to get those opportunities, is he not pandering to the entire patriarchal, misogynistic, sexist, stereotypical attitude that is already there? World over, companies are looking at giving period leave. Look at Japan, 1947. 1947, we are talking about it just now, and also hemming and hawing. They began to give that leave. Almost most Asian countries are looking at giving period leave. What is wrong in giving that leave? And why is it that companies that speak of so much of progress are unable to work around this to say that there are some women who want to get through with disorders that might come as a result of menstruation? Nobody says menstruation is a disorder. No. But some kind of disorders that some, or most often, most women face need to be considered. And that is not a problem. Nobody loses out. So does my country want all the women to stay back home because they refuse to give some of these holidays based on economics, based on stereotypical understanding? based on patriarchal misogyny and sexist attitudes, that is absolutely wrong. Because we are talking of the largest population in the world,
Right.
just next to China.
Let
and
me
we
ask
have half
Mr.
the
Jha
Jews
this
that are
question.
women.
Mr. Jha, like Ms. Adige has been pointing out, young girls are often told that, this is part of life. But, why should that be? We know that 20% of women, according to medical statistics, suffer from pain, which can be called really severe. And 30% of them actually have menopausal symptoms also. So suffering in silence is clearly not a solution. How do companies look at this? Because, if maybe 1 or 2 days of menstrual leave a month for every woman may not be too much, and it could be one good way of showing young women that their employer cares, isn't it?
Well, I do recognize that I'm possibly the only guy on a panel of all women, and the emotion and politics of the subject notwithstanding. Let me also caveat that here I'm responding as a person who brought maternity leave for 6 months. Almost 14 years before it became law. Someone who brought in surrogacy leave, all kinds of leave and practices for women. And yet I think this is an issue which is now being overdone. Right? So let me stick my neck out. There is emotion, there is politics, there is the chance of accusation of many words that can be thrown. But you have to see it in the context that is this the biggest issue? You see, leaves like this make a lot of sense when leave norms and practices were very conservative. The good news has been over the last 4 or 5 years, many companies have been very liberal with leave. There's been an absolute perestroika in leave thinking, if I may say so. Right? So, and during COVID and after, I think the leave regime has become very liberal. The number of leave, unlimited medical leave in many companies, and there's nothing which stops a company from even doing this. But, my personal view is that is this something which should be the norm, the practice? Who decides that there is menstrual pain? Is there an issue of abuse? And very importantly, let's remember that, whether you're in the army, whether you're in the police, whether you're a crew on the airlines, for years, you're going to be, you've been doing this. Will it actually be something which will be very different? I don't know. We are also talking about gender neutral workplaces. Let's not also throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there will be an issue about, manpower availability or resource availability. And at the end of the day, where will this end? I mean, today it's menstrual leave, tomorrow it's something else. My worry actually as an HR thinker, as an HR practitioner is, we must be very cautious. We want to make it a gender neutral and ideally a progressive, more women embracing workplaces. But the more you do things which appear to be giving them a special altar to stand on, there is going to be, and that's my worry, there is going to be a reaction by recruiting companies, right, by recruiting managers. And the fact of the matter is that, you can't have 24 days extra of leave or 36 days of extra leave. At the end of the day, it's a choice that you make. When you come into a company, you can't also say, I want to have everything different, but I want to be equal with everyone else. I think there is a sense of caution that I would have.
Ms. Adige, would you like to respond to that? Because, while we talk about a rights-based approach, there are many who still question, the biological need for menstrual leave. So, of course, there is a big gap here. So, how do you address an argument like you will lose out on equal opportunities the minute you talk about something like menstrual leave?
Is that addressed to me?
Ms. Adige, would you like to respond to Mr. Jha?
Yeah, I would like to respond. First and foremost, this is not a biology that I have a choice about. This is my biology. And without this biology, there is not going to be any further population that will come. Yeah? That said, now you're saying that I cannot give those people. We are not somebody outsiders. We are part of the family, the community, and the country. We have a certain job biologically. And I call it a job, which is not something that we have desired or dreamed or even wished for. And this job cannot be performed by anybody else. Maybe there are scientific whatevers that you might get. That said, you spoke about gender neutral spaces, workspaces. Now, those gender neutral workspaces cannot be gender neutral ever. You're trying to bring about certain situations only that probably could be gender neutral. The moment you talk about a gender neutral space, a lot of other things can be thrown out of the window, including your
To respond to that, she's raising a very important point because, like I said, there is disproportionate amount of responsibilities on women, from childbearing to caregiving. So would you, this is a country that celebrates fertility. So, how do we not have a rights-based approach to menstrual leave?
Would I respond to that?
Yes, Mr. Shah, please.
So, my thing is that, there's a lot of emotion. You can't actually start contesting because it becomes almost, oh, without this, nothing will happen. We are so unique. We are, at the end of the day, workplace is also a matter of choice. You ask people who are in the army, the government has started enrolling women at NDA. Are you going to say you will be allowed to kind of not train for 2 days every month? Are you going to tell the crew which flies airlines across that your entire rostering program will keep changing? See, please understand, at the end of the day, you make choices.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, especially if they are corporate organizations, they make more meaningful choices. At the end of the day, we do want, at least that's my view, we would like people to be actually more respecting of merit. The larger issue, if you ask me, is really where is the unconscious bias of discriminating against women? That has to end. But overdoing all this and trying to be patriarchal, to me, it's also patronizing. How many people actually suffer this? And you will make it an across-the-board exercise and say everyone will get 3 days of leave.
I will have to just cut you short here. We also have Mr. Ninong Ering joining us. He is an MLA from Arunachal Pradesh, former MP. And I remember in 2017, Mr. Ering had brought this private members bill in the parliament. Mr. Ering, thank you so much for joining us. In this bill, you said that companies need to have safe resting places for women. You wanted hygiene matters of college-going girls, school-going girls to be discussed and solved. But when you raised it in the Arunachal Pradesh Assembly, some said that you were talking about dirty things and that the Assembly is a holy place and that you should talk to women's organizations for it. Still, tell me, how did such resistance not affect your pursuit, and why do you think menstrual leave is important for women?
Namaskar. I've just heard what Mr. Jha has also said. It's true. This issue is, it depends from place to place, from area to area. Say, I was just seeing it, that even in European countries or even in Japan or in South Korea or Taiwan also, these provisions were there. In fact, even in India, down in Kerala, in some schools, these provisions were there. And even in this Bihar, there is a special leave for women. But of course, they don't call it a menstruation leave. They call it, of course, like they said that it is a kind of a taboo. So when they say that it's a kind of a taboo, it is people like to keep the word out of it.
Right.
So in the presentation I had given in Parliament or even in Assembly, it was just that children, young girls, they really have some problems during this menstruation period. So I had taken up this even in a questionnaire through Madam Maneka Gandhi, or even Mr. Gangwar was the woman and child welfare. That time also I had taken it up, and they said that no.
Right.
At a later
Mr. Ering, I'm really sorry I have to cut you short, but we're really short of time. Okay. So that was our panel. Thank you, Mr. Ering. Thank you, Mr. Jain. Thank you, Ms. Adige, for joining us. Clearly, this is one debate that needs much more time and nuance to it. That's all we have for you. Thank you so much, and keep watching us for more news and updates.